So it's good to be back. I just arrived back in the country on Thursday evening. And as many of the others who have been on pilgrimage in Thailand, either previous years or this last time, just recently, just now, um, there's this integration time when you come back. Could you Here, I'll just give that to you. Sorry. Um, yeah, so I I found this pilgrimage so powerful personally, and I've also I always marvel and appreciate so much everyone's practice who comes along with us, and just reflecting a bit on what brought me to this particular moment, going back before I met up with the Dhamma. I already knew that there are many lifetimes. That was clear to me. And I already knew that our actions matter, that that karma is a real thing, and how that to some degree how that unfolds over lifetimes. And I already had a very strong sense of dukkha and the pain that comes with human life or any life. Even though the causes of the conditions of my rebirth in this lifetime were pretty good, there was a strong emphasis in my mind around the dukkha that we all experience. And I already had some faith that there was a way out, that there is such a thing as awakening. But there was so much that I didn't know. And then I met up with the Dhamma, and actually that really happened primarily in Thailand. So that's why I feel and that's why I have so much gratitude and connection with the Thai forest tradition, and such a strong interest in returning there. And meeting up with the Dhamma was amazing because so much of what I had understood was really confirmed by the Buddha. Practically on every page of the canon of the Sutta Pitaka, at least. And to really appreciate and beyond words the gifts that I've received from the Kruba Ajahns over time, and how a number of them have passed away by now. So I'm really keen to go back to Thailand every year while I can, to visit some of those great teachers who are still with us while we can. And this visit, I want to just highlight a couple of the things that really came out strongly for me. And I'd like to hear from other people who were on the pilgrimage, to, when I finish this reflection, to hear maybe what some of the things that you heard or came through you too in the pilgrimage, if you're up for sharing any of that. But for me, I think the most powerful impressions so far are around the confidence that was expressed by Lungpa Ganha and also Ajahn Suchar, Tanajan Suchar. And that confidence in us, that we can do it. It was really sweet with Ajahn Suchard at the end of our time, when he was doing the Q&A that we attended, and then our group came up and talked with him a little bit, made our offerings, and he looked over the whole group and he said something like, keep going. It won't be long now before you reach your goal. Something like that. Anyone else who was there can maybe refine the language, but
you're almost there, keep going.
You're almost there, keep going. And then we discussed later how almost could have a lot of meanings. Who knows? In that broad spread of lifetimes, but I think that's not really what's relevant. What's relevant is that someone with that depth of wisdom and insight could look at this group and say that. It's very encouraging. And Longpa Ganha, said a number of very encouraging things to all of us. And at one point in the week, he invited Ayya Chitananda and me up to the upper story of his kuti to talk with us. And he said that he wanted to talk with us that way, more or less privately. I mean, there's another monk there. It was Ajahn Tilo was there, and the translator Kung. But the sort of intensity of energy and focus and support was so impactful. It's really, really beautiful and inspiring. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the message that I think was most prominent for me, at least, and maybe for others too, during our visit. But he finished with saying that he could see that we can do it. And that's very encouraging. These are the kinds of things that we can touch in on and really use as a source of support, as we walk this path. And Ajahn Ganha talked to everyone about entering the path of practice and having right view, right understanding, and right practice. And of course, that leads to an investigation of, what is that? And am I embracing that fully? Am I putting my feet on that path in the right way? And of course, part of that right view is understanding about karma, how it works, how incredibly important it is that we act in accordance with the Dhamma. And we include all of the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path in our practice. But the thing that he kept underscoring, Longpa Ganha, as he would talk with the two of us or with all of us or with many people, there's so many people coming there from so many places, and so many places geographically, so many places psychologically. And his emphasis on relinquishing the sense of self, living from the Dhamma, living with the Dhamma as the foundation for our life, rather than the sense of self. So in our check-in, we're talking about our circumstances in this moment in time, some of which can be very challenging, of course. And the truth of the matter of living a human life and coming up against those challenging times of change and pain, and then to fold in, to embrace, to highlight, to underscore, to embed, to really engage in this reality of not self. And the reality of the awakening to the truth of the Dhamma as right here available, immediately available, inviting us to come and see, to investigate, to realize. But it isn't far away, it's more like a partial pivot to really take that in completely. So, really in the practice, in our moment to moment practice, can we distinguish between those times when we're grounded in the sense of self, or we're afflicted by the sense of self, and when we've been able to set that aside? And the setting it aside brings so much relief and peace. And yet the concerns for the body, the concerns for what people think of us, the concerns for how we are, continually try to push in and take over. In the sense of self, the ego tries to appropriate everything. Even when we have some really wholesome intentions and altruistic kind of motives, then the sense of self wants to come in and take it on as its own. And instead of battling with it, just see it. We don't have to fight it. We need to understand it. And that's exactly what the Buddha said about dukkha, to know it, to really understand it, see it for what it is. So I would really encourage, and this is an ongoing practice, to identify in any particular moment what's really there. Is it the sense of self, or are we really just opening up to the Dhamma and letting go of all of that, all that selfing, all that worry, all that limitation, all that pain? And it's tricky because if we try to leap ahead of ourselves and throw it away, it doesn't work. We can't spiritually bypass the knowing of the dukkha. We have to really see it first and then let it go. So the very short instruction to know and let go has so much depth to it. And yet it still comes back to being simple. Something we can come to feel the difference in ourselves. Where when we let go of that sense of self, or we relinquish it, as Ajahn Gana said, then we also Feel the flow of the loving kindness, the compassion, the equanimity, and the joy for the incredible good that we find in ourselves and in each other and in experience. The joy, the mudita. So that's really the space that I've been reflecting on and, really taking in the different approaches that these great teachers that we visited have. Ajahn Suchard, Ajahn Anan, Ajahn Gana. Really appreciating each of them in their approach to teaching the Dhamma and sharing the depth of their practice, their realizations, their great wisdom. When Ajahn Ganha talked with the two of us, at one point he said, "You won't hear Dhamma talk like this from anyone else." And I think that's because of the way he's consolidated the aspects of the practice, distilled it down into love everyone, let go of the sense of self. In this present moment, you know Nibbana when you relinquish the sense of self and live from the Dhamma. Let the Dhamma flow through. It's just incredibly beautiful. So each of us, because of our own karma, because of our own conditioning, because of our own experiences, we have our own fresh examples to work to use to develop in the path. Our own versions of the heavenly messengers that come to invite us and push us over that edge of complacency and the effort we make to try to keep the status quo in place, which we know very well is a totally losing battle. And then to tip over that edge and into what sometimes feels like a free fall without, maybe sometimes without the awareness that this incredible safety net of the Dhamma is right there. No matter how dire it all feels. We're on a path to awakening. No matter what happens to this body, no matter how many detours the mind might take, you already have tasted the Dhamma, or you wouldn't be listening to this. You already have that idea, that maybe great depth of understanding, maybe just a glimmer, who knows? Regardless, you're already on that track. So, like Ajahn Suchard said, keep going. It won't be long. For anyone else who is either on the pilgrimage and would like to share something that they brought back with them, or for anyone who has comments or questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Yes, James.
Yeah, I have found it challenging to describe my experience on this trip. Which certainly left me coming back with reinforced commitment and devotion and energy for the practice. Um, it's so I also have this. So when I hear someone say, an arahat say, keep going, you're close. Uh, it's hard to take that personally because I experience the kind of stream of effluvia running through my mind, you know, pronouncedly, throughout the day, and the counter uh, inclinations, to the Dhamma practice. But when I examine, objectively my own Dhamma practice, I can really see that I am making right effort. And as someone was commenting earlier, the magic of it is it's working, uh, and you can see it uh, over the course of time, even though you may not be able to see it in the moment. Um, and Yeah, I mean, I'm already planning my trip to go back next year, which is, both a reflection of my commitment because, when I went this year, I was thinking, oh, well, I don't know if I'll make it again next year. But, um, it's kind of like crazy not to go if I'm really devoted to the practice. Um, so I know that's not very coherent. And I really feel this edge, which is so hard to cross of look at resting in the awareness and not the self. Um, and it is a, enormous release when that self, abates for a minute.
Yeah.
And I think it does uh, kind of periodically all the time. It's so brief that I don't think I'm really conscious of it, but I think that is reflected in this phenomena of kind of long-term unperceived progress. Um, so anyway, that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Thank you, James. Thank you for your reflections. Val.
Yeah, I would agree with James. It's hard to explain to people the experience that I had there. I found it just so remarkably different from my practice here, in my life here. It's really made me question my entire life here. Made me realize, oh, there needs to be some kind of relinquishment on a larger scale or something, because I found practicing there so effortless. I mean, even when I couldn't understand the Dhamma talks because they were in Thai, and I had to, just force myself to change my meditation practice to work with what was there. There was a simplicity and an ease that I just don't have here. So that really struck me. Um, the simplicity in the messages from the different ajahns that spoke to us. That was another thing that struck me. The practice seems so simple, mindfulness, is key. Be anchored in right view. And I wrote it down actually because I knew I wouldn't remember. Stay in the present moment, of course. And I loved, someone said, if there's stress, there's a sense of self-present. Because I don't know, for myself, suffering, by the time I'm suffering, I'm already deep into my suffering. So catching it earlier, if there's stress, that really impressed itself upon me. And I had a confidence there in my practice and where I am in my practice that I just completely lost when I got here. And I don't know, I mean, I got really pretty bad jet lag. I had a surgical procedure. So and I've had a couple of not great news, so it's been a rough re-entry, but, so I assume I'll get my confidence back. But yeah, I'm just, honestly, I'm ready to just relinquish my entire life and just go there. Because it was just so different. And it was just remarkable. Like the amount of peace that I felt on a daily basis was absolutely mind-boggling to me. So thank you for letting me ramble on. and thank you for that opportunity, Ayas. And to everyone that was on the trip with me, thank you. I miss all of you. It's so nice to see your faces, especially Carol, who is my roommate. Yeah, thank you everyone here for your support. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Val. Yeah. Speaking of the simplicity, Ajahn Gana repeatedly has said, meditation is easy. You just breathe in the oxygen and you breathe out the carbon dioxide and all of your defilements.
All the toxic things.
Just all the toxicity, just breathe out. Okay, Ajahn. Okay, we'll talk. I've been thinking about that, yeah. Olivia.
Oh, hi everyone. Wow, it's hard to know exactly what to say, so I'm just gonna bubble some things through. I really noticed how time makes a place different. You are a different person truly. Each time you're in the same place, it's not the same. And what I needed to work on or what needed to come up with me was different this time than last time I went. And that was exactly what it needed to be, that there wasn't, despite whatever expectation or thought that I had, it was exactly what I needed. And I think one of the highlights for me was sitting in the Dhamma hall when Ajahn Ganha was sitting up at the front, and it was just blissful. It was just so sweet, and it didn't matter how good my concentration was, or if I was sleepy, or and it was like a really direct experience of, this is someone on the outside, like radiating their mind onto us. Like, this isn't me. It's not coming from my good practice. I mean, maybe there's a component of being able to receive it, but really enjoyed that. And it felt just very nourishing and very loving. And there was also like a feeling of encouragement in it. Like, wow, this is what a human being who's an arahant can do, and a tiny, tiny little taste of what he might experience. Wow, that's beautiful. I I want that. Like, the spiritual greed came in. um yeah, and like last time I really felt the power, the strength of each of the teachers' minds to be able to get to the heart of questions that we were asking them. And that's also an extremely powerful experience of the reality of, well, to me, what feels like a reality of what an arahant, what's possible for an arahant. Yeah, and then I think in terms of the conversation on selfing, I think the most important piece for me was just seeing how very much the practice is in real time, like that this selfing is so insidious, and that I've had some tendency in the past to kind of say spirituality is over there, spirituality is on the cushion, or spirituality is when I feel good, when I'm with the ayas, or spirituality is when I'm at sutta study. And of course, those are like the heightened experiences, but I really could just see much more directly how the work happens in the moment that I'm thinking something, saying something, doing something, and the skillfulness or the the tendency for the self to take over and the selfing process to be in charge is so strong, and yet could also see when that can pull away and what actions lead to that pulling away or softening or coming more into that broader view. And it's painful. Like like really, really, really seeing it. I was like, ooh, yeah, this is bad. And it's like it felt very immediate for me, and I've taken all of it back and I've been processing it for the past week, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more processing, but that's what I can share.
Thank you, Olivia. Huang.
Um, oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. Sorry, I thought the meeting started at 9:30, so I missed the greeting part. But it's I think overall I felt really lucky, like it's a great opportunity. Um, like you read about these monks in the Thai forest tradition, but like it's just in the book, but actually going there, I mean, it's not exactly the same like in the old day, but you still get a sense of what it like. And I think it's very different. I think like Val said, overall, their lifestyle is very simple. And there's like, yeah. And that also inspired me to, um, I guess, like try to do less. Like, so one thing I've been trying to do is that I don't listen to Dhamma talk or anything while I'm driving anymore. I just, well, unless it's like a really long drive, uh, but I would just drive now. I won't listen to anything. So yeah, just try to like do one thing at a time because I feel like being in this Silicon Valley, you have this attitude of just trying to like add one more thing into your day. And I'm much less busy than most people, but I still find myself doing that. And another thought I have is like, where else could you go where people make you sit for like an hour listening to talk that you don't understand a single word? Like that's that's the only place where, yeah, like you could do that. Like literally nowhere else people can make you do that. And that just like I think as it gets better and better, and I start to enjoy just like sitting there, like this is fine. Not not like I'm loving it, but like this is fine. Yeah. I'll take like a little bit of boredom over stress. So, um, and it was very nice to be with other people. I've been living by myself for some time, so I just do things however I like. So it's just, being with people, seeing like uh what I'm lacking. Yeah. And that was really nice.
So that's really nice watching Juan. Like he was so sweet with everybody, trying to look after all our little old sweet ladies and our different group members. He was like checking in. Oh, can I do this for you? It was very sweet. So I like that. He was our youngest person on the pilgrimage this time, and he was kind of like, trying to help. It's nice.
He was holding up the 20s decade.
Yeah, the whole decade was on Wong.
And we had
Yeah.
we have 30, we had
Yeah.
30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s.
So.
I've always been kind of amazed at how KBV can have a dozen people in a room and 10 countries are represented, or, we've got like all the age groups, and it's so cute.
80s at one point, we had some people in their 80s.
Yeah, we have.
Like, oh, okay.
But the unifying factor is our thirst for the Dhamma and our seriousness of intention. And the Kruba Ajahns really see that and really take time with us. They've been so generous. And I also really like to see how people were helping each other and looking for ways to be helpful, useful. It's nice. Yeah. Anybody have any questions about anything Dhamma related? Or, yeah, Holly?
I was wondering if anybody would say anything to compare last year's Thailand trip to this year's Thailand trip. I went last year, as some may know, and so
other people who went both times might be reflecting on that. I can say that there were big differences in the structure. In 2023, we only stayed at Ajahn Ganha's monastery, and when we visited Ajahn Anand's monastery and Ajahn Suchart, and we stopped at Ajahn Jendi's monastery, but we knew he wasn't going to be there because it was Katina time and he was away. We stopped at Ajahn Sopa, and so we did more moving around in 2023, and we stayed in hotels for half the trip, which had a very different feeling to it. Even though we got together and practiced like in somebody's room or our rooms, or something like that, there was also a lot more of the world impinging on us and inviting people to go to the night market, walk on the beach. And there's nothing wrong with what anyone did, but it's a different feeling. This time was in some ways more austere. We stayed at Ajahn Anand's monastery. We stayed at the monastery adjacent to Ajahn Suchart's forest group up the mountain. And so in some ways it was more difficult this time, and on a physical level, I think, and more immersive in some ways as a result. And everything, as someone mentioned, everything changes. Like, you can't ever depend on any monastery you've visited to be the same way next time. monasteries change. The people there come and go. The people who are leading might change the way things are done. On our first pilgrimage with people coming along with us in 2019, we asked Ajahn Gunna, people asked Ajahn Gunna lots of questions. But the last 2 times, or since the pandemic, he doesn't really answer questions anymore. He just talks to us. He answers the questions in what he says without us having to say anything. It's in your mind, and somehow it comes out in the Dhamma because he knows what we're up to. And I think he's not taking questions. In fact, when we were upstairs with him and at the end of his talking to us, I asked if I could ask a question. And the translator later told us that she was just like, he never takes questions. She wondered what he would say. And he said I could ask that question. So it's like he cuts down on the nonsense in a lot of ways. And he cuts down on the time spent for us to get it out, because he's already tuned into what we need, I think.
Yeah, and the questions people ask, if it's too theoretical or it doesn't, frankly, doesn't help you get enlightened, he's just like, who cares?
Yeah.
A lot of the times,
Yeah.
the first time we went, his answer was, who cares?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's not something to focus on. It's not going to help you make progress. So don't worry about it. And that probably has led up to a lot of the questions.
Yeah, a lot of what, like, let's cut that out.
Yeah.
Cut that part out.
Yeah.
But so that's a difference that's been happening, not just from last year to this year, but over the times of visiting him. And it was really just interesting, really interesting to integrate more into the life of the monasteries and to really see what's happening in those places. And there are lots of different forces at play. At Ajahn and nuns, as bhikkhunis, were kind of an oddity in the monastery, in the bhikkhu monastery. And we didn't know exactly what we should do, where we should sit. The monks would say, sit wherever you want. And we're like, we know that's not going to work. There's a lot of area there that's just not going to be the right place. And then we'd ask, when should we do this, or what should we do? And they'd say, I don't know, let me check. And then they check and they still like, I don't know. So all this kind of trying to suss it out and feel our way and be respectful. And
then we realized that it wasn't just
us that didn't know.
The monastery is just kind of like that. It's very like relaxed and informal in some sense, oddly enough. There's an informality that's like, oh, okay. So it's not just because of the bhikkhuni thing. They're just kind of like, we're kind of relaxed. And we're like, oh,
like, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think of anything else that's changed?
Yeah, well, I kept saying it on the pilgrimage, so the people who were there are probably sick of this, but the year before felt much more, like you said, less austere, like with the nice hotels and the air conditioning and,
diving in and
nice
out of air
vans and
conditioning
stuff.
is really a relief.
Very
It was
helpful.
very hot.
Yeah,
the
but
first
so
part of the trip.
this year was real pilgrimage. There was enough suffering to make it real pilgrimage. So in a way, it's better. Yeah, it was really, really hot. People had a hard time with the hot.
Yeah.
The nice air conditioned hotels were not there, and it was bad. So there was that. And
yeah, it's like
stuff to
Juan
practice
said, all
with.
this, physical stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's
Yeah.
okay. And then being required to be at the Dhamma talks in Thai was really interesting. And to tune in more on an energetic or psychic level was really interesting. Anyway.
I felt like they were all very generous with their time. The teachers we went to see Ajahn and then did like a nice longish Q&A one day, and then he's like, oh, and you can come back tomorrow, but he's like 71, I think he said. So his energy isn't really quite up to it the next day. But then he had everybody write their questions down, and we did a whole nother talk the next day answering them all. So it's like, it was a lot of effort. It was very nice of him. And Ajahn Suchart spent a lot of time with us, like you already mentioned in your talk just now. And Ajahn Gunha spent a lot of time with us. So yeah, it was good. Worth all of the extra suffering. Yeah.
But we have no way to predict what it will be like next year.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was reflecting what Val said about it being kind of like she could really just put everything down and just practice, and I did not feel like I could put everything down and just practice. So it's like all my little baby chickens are running around the monastery, and I wonder about them. Are they okay? What's going on?
Do you feel
No
much
one
like
knows,
a baby
no one
chicken?
knows. It felt more confusing this time too, because like last time Ayya Viveka, Samarthi Viveka was around, and she was kind of our Thai speaking monastic who kind of had insights about how things really are, especially different places, but especially Ajahn Gunha's too, I guess all of it really. So we had our own little guide, and this time it's like people are like, what's going on? We're like, we don't know. Certain things like at the monastery at the specific times, like you're saying, like things change at Ajahn Gunha's monastery, and we can't rely on last year or whatever it was like. So it's a little more confusing, a little extra suffering. It was great.
True pilgrimage style.
Yeah, the uncertainty is nice. Yeah. Oh, Mayor's been wanting to talk for a while.
Yeah, Mayor.
Oh, it's not that long. I now that you've been talking more, I want to change what I want to say, which is I just like listening to you, and I hear in that just the holding. Like my question was going to be about the other places. How was it as being bhikkhunis? And in a way, the question's even stronger now because like Ayya Chitananda, what you were just saying, and I know Ayya Santussikā, you bring the same thing. All of this beautiful holding of all of us in the practice. And I just want to know if you had any semblance of holding as bhikkhunis in the different places. Thinking about you two.
Yeah, we had a bit of the word is abrupt. The word in my head is abrupt, but it's not quite right. It was kind of a bit of a surprising entrance into, because the other years we would go right from the landing at the airport to Ajahn Gunha's monastery, where the arms are open like this wide, and it's all so metta filled. And instead, because of Ajahn Gunha being away that first week that we were planned to be there, we flipped the trip around and we started at Wat Yan, which is the city the monastery where Ajahn Suchart is nearby, is right there. But Wat Yan is run by an abbot, a different person. And when we had it all arranged that we were coming and all of that, and everything sounded good. And when we got there and we were kind of like checking in, if you will, the reception was not so welcoming. And we were asked to pay for being there, which I'd never experienced in any monastery. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was the attitude was surprising. And also we were told that our group was not welcome to come to the pujas, to the chanting and meditation in the hall. We were, not to help with anything, not to get involved in doing any chores or doing anything to participate in the monastery life. And when the women went to one building and the men to another, of course, and in the women's building, there were lay women who would go every morning, early in the morning, to the pujas, and, and we were not allowed. And so, and the person checking us in the office never even looked at us, Bhikkhuni. I couldn't even like look at us. And so, of course, that felt very Bhikkhuni oriented, disoriented, you know. And this is where Tan Alex lives. He lives with Ajahn Suchart. This is a bit up the mountain. It's the same place, but actually the monasteries are, it's supposed to be, it was developed as a way for the forest practitioners, monastic practitioners, and the city monastic practitioners to connect and to be together. But they do have their separate areas in that space. And Tan Alex was the one who had been arranging things for us. And so we said to him, you know, for the two of us, we don't care. We appreciate the political climate, read bhikkhunis and all of that in Thailand, and so what? But this is not what we want for our people. You know, that impression of we don't really want you here, you know, kind of doesn't seem so good. So we reached out to the next monastery, to Ajahn Anand's monastery, and asked if we could come a day early, shorten our stay there. Even though we wanted to see Ajahn Suchart, and we cut that short by one day, but we had our chance to see him, and then we would go. And Wat Mapjan said, sure, you're very welcome to come early, no problem. And you know, and so a couple days later, Tan Alex said that one of the senior monks did some negotiation, and we could now go to the pujas. So we had about 24 hours of.
We went to 2 whole pujas. One morning and one evening. It was great.
One evening and one morning, something like that. One morning, whatever. And I immediately asked, well, what did the senior monk have to give up? I don't make this possible.
Which finger is now missing?
You know? So, you know, we did feel. Well, then Tan Alex explained that the story is that this monastery is very much a tourist kind of stop, and that they have had Westerners come there, foreigners come to the pujas who were not respectful in the past. And even to the point of, you know, partying at Pattaya city, which has a wide range of defilements present very readily. And then coming to the puja like inebriated or, you know, just really totally disrespectful. Not really there for the Dhamma, but there for the tourist attraction, kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, free or cheap place to stay.
Free or cheap place to stay, yeah. Which is probably why they wanted to extract bought from us immediately. Mm-hmm. So, you know, given that, then, you know, that they realized that this group is not like that, and we could actually join in on the Dhamma aspect of it. Having said all that, when Ajahn Suchart has his meetings on the weekends, and when Saturday came around and we were able to go to his kuti and be there for the Dhamma talk or for the Q&A and all of that, it was beautiful. And Ajahn Suchart took extra time with us afterwards because I think he wanted to kind of make up for that mess and let us know how welcome we were and how much he appreciated us. And it was really sweet. So there's that. And then to, you know, like, it's really funny when you feel discriminated against, how hard it is to sort out how much of it is really discrimination against whatever qualities I'm carrying or our group is carrying, and what is something else that's less personal. And then to realize none of it's personal. It's just kind of like, okay. So our plan next time is to really check as far as we can with Ajahn Ghana's monastery and go there first, regardless, because it is such a wonderful grounding for people in the real beauty of the Dhamma as practiced in Thailand. And then when we do get to Ajahn Suchart's at the end, go back to that really lovely hotel we stayed in last year, the Ban Hin Wang, which is right by the ocean. You can walk to this very small, secluded but beautiful beach and spend some time in nature and take an easy drive with the van over to see Ajahn Suchart when he's available and bypass the city monastery scene. So that's, yeah. We did have one experience this time, and we've had this before in Thailand, where we are invited by the monks to participate in an alms round kind of situation. And you're walking along, and then someone sees that you're bhikkhunis, and suddenly they either dump everything into the last monk's bowl so they don't have to give you anything, or they just kind of tell you, I'm not doing it. And it's like, okay, there's a lot of conditioning, negative conditioning about bhikkhunis still. I have not felt unsafe at all. Thai people tend to avoid conflict, and if they don't like what's happening, they're more likely to just pull away. They're not aggressive. It's not the government it's not the secular government, it's the monastic hierarchy. The monks at the top of the hierarchy are very, very defensive about bhikkhunis. But I don't really feel their influence on a day-to-day in Thailand. There's quite a few people who are really delighted to see us. So it's a real mix.
Yeah, at Ajahn and nuns, that we happened to arrive on a day they were having an ordination. And so there are a bunch of Thai people that are not monastery people really, they're just there for the kind of celebration or to support their sons who are temporarily ordaining for making merit raisins for the family. And we were fine, like they sat us up on chairs near the front and we felt no weird, but our friends told us that there was some weird going on behind us, like about being bhikkhunis, but we didn't feel it. We don't care. We told them not to care. This is not our problem. This doesn't have to become our defilement, like,
yeah,
nothing is personal about this. This is just the conditioning. And then we met Matthew wants us to tell him about the sweet Singaporean couple. The guy was coming to ordain, and the woman was like very supportive and wanting to do graphics for us and stuff. And
yeah,
excited to see us in Thailand because they didn't know we were coming. And they're like, we watch you on YouTube. So
yeah, we were on you. We were on their Facebook page.
Yeah,
collecting alms.
Yeah, so it was sweet.
Yeah, it's samsara. It's a real mix.
Yeah,
we've got the wholesome and the unwholesome just sprouts up everywhere in this samsaric realm.
Mm-hmm.
Time to get out, friends. Let's go.
Yeah. Did you still want to say something, James? Or
I know we're running late, but
well, what I was going to say was my experience at Walmart John when you were invited to go on alms round was really one of the most beautiful memories from that whole trip. I mean, needless to say, in Thailand, you don't see nuns going on alms rounds with monks. And I didn't know about the little, holding back by some people, but I will say, that setting, the skies were clear and the sun was coming up over the horizon. Everything was sort of a shades of orange and reds. And
Oh.
I could feel the continuity of 2,500 years of monastics going on alms rounds. And, my ayahs were walking down the path and we were able to offer alms. And I felt so connected to the tradition and happy. All of us were very happy to see you. And anyway, it's very beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for that, reminding us of that image. I know for myself, it was so heart opening and uplifting to participate in that way, and to see the joy in the people to offer to us and have us included is very sweet.
And at every monastery, Santussikā Church included, there were always people coming up who were very interested and happy, to see ordained bhikkhunis. We had to kind of provide for ourselves at Ajahn. I mean, I don't even want to call it Santussikā Church because, this is kind of the context of this other monastery. But, I had, people coming up to me and offering me food and Tom, Alex, at every monastery, there was, a core of people who were extremely supportive.
Yeah.
And models of kindness and generosity. And
yeah, so true.
And I take that as my takeaway from Thailand.
Yeah, it's so true. And I felt over the few days that we were there at that monastery where it started out so rocky, I really was feeling more and more of the warmth of the larger community. The lay people who were there, the way they started to engage with us it had the feeling that if we stayed around, I think this would get a lot warmer. So, I don't want to ever focus on the negative. There's so much of it in this world. If we put our attention on that and we add more to it, it's just sad. But if we really pay attention to the good, we help develop that more. And it's beautiful.
Yeah. Matthias was asking about Thai bhikkhunis. I think that's Matthias. Just in the chat.
Thai bhikkhunis.
Yeah, Thai bhikkhunis, if we know any. We've been trying to get to go see Ayya Dhammananda and her bhikkhunis, but
Ayya Dhammananda had a stroke shortly before we arrived in Thailand, so we didn't get to see her this time.
Yeah.
And we did. We have a friend who's a Thai bhikkhuni who happened to be staying at Ajahn Gunna, so we saw her. Venerable Munisara. Anyway, we should probably let you all go, but thank you for your attention. And it's beautiful to be part of this community and to see it blossoming and to support in any way that we can everybody's practice.
Oh, plug for Upasika program. If you haven't gone yet to apply for it, that maybe Mayor will say something real quick. And we're also having a New Year's Day thing again, as usual, at the Hermitage. So come in person if you want, 10 to 4, or online. There's a Zoom link.
You can join in online too.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Mayor.
And go to the website if you haven't already and read about the details of the Upasika program. The application deadlines are like about the 19th, I think, of January, and the program will begin the last Sunday of January. And really to say the heart of the matter is really for us to get to come together and really practice deeply as lay disciples of the Buddha. And that we'll be practicing with our, I'm remembering now that Ayya wrote when you guys were on the plane to Thailand about the lay Vinaya. And in a way, that's what we'll be really doing with lots of beautiful structure and the support of our guiding teachers here. So just an encouragement. And I know that people are in various states of health with, lots of stuff going on, and the program will be available in person and online. And if you're online attending and you have trouble seeing or hearing, like we could totally make adjustments. Like everybody's really welcome who wants to participate and deepen. And so whatever is happening, especially around all the health stuff going on, of course, there will be a way to make accommodations for that. That's, I think, really important. And I'm available to talk. I mean, I'm going out of town next Saturday, but I'm available to talk. And the Ayyas, I think, are basically always available to talk with a few limitations. So please check it out. And, I think it'll be a great opportunity for the community, for the lay community, to take the next step in our practice together. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Very
It's
good.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Mira. Okay, it feels so warm and lovely. No one wants to go home. I get it. Oh, you are home. I forgot about that. I hope all the weather works out. Snow, rain,
Health,
whatever, and
Bodies, yeah.
internally and externally.
Yeah.